Welcome to Leadership, the secret sauce, where extraordinary coaches and leaders reveal what makes them exceptional. We're your hosts, Dave Lipski and Matt Dodson. Together, let's discover our guest's secret sauce. Today's episode is brought to you by Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. At Character Matters, we believe great leadership isn't just about results. It's about who you become along the way. From career transitions to team building, we help leaders unlock clarity, build resilience, and lead authentically. Because when character grows, impact follows. Visit charactermatterscoaching.com. All right, as we get started here, this is our season 4 review. We have a special guest as our season 4 reviewer. It's JP. Some of you may know him as one of our assistants to myself. And he also is the main editor and the producer of the podcast. So, Dave, you want to introduce JP?
Hello, JP. Welcome to the podcast. And it's not really a welcome for guests that have first experienced it, because you've been behind the scenes making all of these things go for the last few years, seasons. So one, I want to appreciate you and thank you so much for all that you've done to make Matt and I look good. And I want to start off with the questions we normally ask, which is on a scale from 1 to 10, JP, where are you at?
First of all, hi, Dave, and hi, Matt. Congratulations on another season of Leadership, the Secret Sauce. As you guys said earlier, I think this has been our longest season yet. A lot of things happened in between, but we definitely had an incredible lineup of coaches and leaders this time. About my energy level, I would say I'm at an 8 right now. I'm a little bit nervous since this is my first time moderating a discussion, but also excited to talk about what has been up during our 4th season. And I also did a quick 5-kilometer run earlier to make me feel more energetic.
Wow.
How about you guys? What's your current energy level?
Okay. So, Dave, JP may have us on honesty and candor, so we're going to have to step it up there.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did not do a 5-kilometer run, and I'm feeling like maybe I should have. So maybe after. So that's, first of all, that's wonderful. I am at, I'm feeling like a 9. Like, I'm excited, JP, for you to ask us questions. I'm excited to interact with you in a different way and learn a little more about you. So that's really exciting for me. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I'd probably say 8.5 or a 9. So yeah, it's a great day. I have not run 3 miles, 5 kilometers. I did go to the gym though this morning. So,
okay.
See, that's good. You both have me beat on that. All right. So, JP, when you were running and somebody pulled up beside you, and you can talk when you run because you're in shape. So they said, "Hey, what do you do, JP?" How would you answer that?
Well, I would say that I'm a virtual assistant to executives such as Matt. But yeah, my work really revolves around, making my clients or, the executives that I work with, making their lives easier, I would say. I wanted to provide, the service or, do the little things that I can do so that they can focus on more meaningful work. That's what I would say.
Well,
totally agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You vouch for that, Matt?
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't think JP's made my life easier. He's made my life better, even better. It's not just easier; it's better. The content, even the editing, the social media, everything that's probably very normal to him, given his age and experience. And so, yeah, I would say that he's made my life better, not just easier. So,
well said. And Matt wouldn't have been at the gym this morning.
I don't know. I wouldn't have, because I would have been busy trying to figure something out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. Well, are you guys ready for the questions so that we can
Yeah.
recap the season? All right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to begin with a question that I'm borrowing from the previous review and reflection with Ali. Was there an idea presented by a guest this season that stuck out to you the most?
Dave, you got one? I have several. This was probably, uh, this may sound cliche. This was to me the deepest some of our guests have gone in terms of really thinking about coaching. And there were some things that people brought up um, regarding coaching, whether that would, like I would think in terms of Dr. Richard Boyatzis and him really talking about the idea that it's this personal relationship that, like that's sort of his secret sauce and what that does inside of a conversation to allow some person to feel comfortable or safe to talk. That also, Sandy Stewart also talked about that. So some of those others, I mean, each one, of course, had some unique. We learned a lot. I think Dave and I learned a lot. I'm going to say that for myself. I learned a lot from each one, even things that I like that I appreciated that maybe I wouldn't want to do as a coach as well. I learned. So, how about you, Dave?
Yeah, there were similar to your reaction. There were a lot of really good, deep thoughts in our conversations, and it's like evolved over to season 4, where I wonder if we're creating more space for people to share that, and maybe we can even do more of that in season 5. So one of the ones that stands out for me was Satu on the steady resilience, like Sisu, like the Finnish concept of calm courage and grit, and that really had me thinking of, somebody asked me about raising children, and they said to me, you know, how did you raise your kids to like get back up and like dust themselves off and just keep going when life gets tough? And I had to think deeply about that. And this term came up, and I'm thinking that um, there was some point where I stopped trying to rescue my children, but also like in coaching, I think there was a point where I stopped trying to be the rescuer with my clients. And that's when I think I improved my coaching.
Nice. Uh, yeah, I mean, personally for me, one of the things that stood out was when Lisa said, coaching is like tasting a recipe along the way. So you experiment and adjust
Hmm.
based on context and people. And I wanted to ask you guys if, one of the things, again, as mentioned, that stood out across multiple guests was how personal growth and self awareness feed into coaching. I wanted to ask if there are insights from the season that made that most clear.
Okay, I'll jump in because I think this was to me like maybe that was the aha or the big defining moment for me in the season was when we noticed a significant difference in the coaches that really had kind of plumbed the depths of who they were and how they show up, and the ones that are at the beginning stages of that or haven't done that yet. Um, the ones, I'll just be bold and say, the ones that hadn't done it had a more almost like textbook,
Mhm.
like, hey, this is, I'm speaking about how to coach from what I've learned in my training, to the ones that said, well, no, this is what it is for me. I've really internalized these things and I've really thought about it. Didn't sound like a cliche. It sounded like it was really coming from a deeply personal place. And yeah, Alyssa was, yeah, she was really great. And you could see that, I mean, just to know a little bit about her around developing coaches, I don't think you get to the place where she is business wise to develop a bunch of coaches if you haven't thought about that and really said, hey, look, this is what I want to teach other people. So I also think that, I mean, early on that Renee Deneen, who
Yes.
did some really like
Yes.
unique
Yes.
things, but Dave and I would probably never ask someone to come to a retreat, because who would really want to spend a whole weekend or week with us? But there's somebody who's like, hey, look, I've thought about this deeply, and this is what, and then people are willing and that is the value that she brings, is that certain experience. So yeah.
Ben really got Morton. He really stopped me in my tracks when he talked about coaching self-confidence and how important that is, and then how when he was doing military training, he said the mothers of these younger soldiers who were training would come up to him and look him in the face and say, you need to take care of my child. And he said that, like, the responsibility and getting people past, like, as coaches, we always wonder if we're doing right by our clients, and we have to have the confidence that we can. And then how you see your clients is so critical, right? You don't want to, as we talked before, you don't want to be in the rescuer mode. But if you're responsible for somebody in the military, you're literally responsible for their life. And that kind of gets you past any of those confidence issues, or whether or not you're going to be able to step up to be the best coach. So I that's the ultimate in purposeful coaching. And then Boyatzis, kind of icing on the cake around, you could spend a couple months working on how would your life be better, what's your vision. That really got me thinking of how sometimes we can be so goal focused in things that we don't really get to what's most important for the client. JP, I riffed off your question, so you need to bring me back. I promise next one I'll be much more on point for you.
Hey, you know what? Can I also, since you mentioned Ben, because I think he is there's somebody, like, oftentimes we will have a coach and they may either be relatively new to the practice, like within its first few years, which I put myself in that category in the first couple of years. But a lot of these people have been doing it for a longer period of time. When you get a chance to talk with someone like Ben, who has really a very unique military experience, but then you see sort of from LinkedIn how he's going about his work, that evolution of a business owner is very insightful from those of us like sitting on the sidelines and seeing how he's doing it. So that to me is like one of the interesting parts about this is, okay, so we got to know Ben. There's a LinkedIn persona about how he really is. That is really, you look back and you go, well, you know what, I'm getting a full picture of what it's like on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or quarterly, whatever, to work and do what he does. And I would say that gives you a better picture, and you go, you know what, this is a hustle when you have your own business, and when you're doing it, it's not easy work. It takes lots of courage. So yeah.
All right. Another thing that keep coming up was vulnerability and courage. These topics came up repeatedly. And as someone outside of the coaching and leadership circle, I guess I'm curious to know how you guys personally navigate through these concepts.
You go first, Dave.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I remember Bob Kunkel talking a lot about vulnerability, being an accelerator for, like, how are you doing in the relationship? And if you can get to vulnerability, then you can make more progress. You have to be willing to go deeper, and it resonated with me. And part of what Matt was talking about before is you do get a sense of the people that have done the work. Often when you ask somebody, do you have a coach? What do you want in a coach? You can get a sense of how much people are willing to share, how much you're willing to be vulnerable, and also like in the relationship that we have with a coach and a client, there's this professional demeanor that you want to be able to display, but then you also want to be able to let that person know you're human and you're fallible and you're not perfect, right? So it's always that balance. And just for me, as you go up higher and higher with with higher level executives, it's the expectation in your head is you have to be more professional, and the value that's really generated is if you can get that leader to be vulnerable and how you can be a little vulnerable yourself.
Yeah.
It just becomes more and more important. What about you,
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah. I think the courage that it takes to be vulnerable, I would say that is I think one of the I think that's where you get to the inspirational leader. Is those leaders that are truly inspiring. Those are the ones that are like, hey, look, I'm going to just kind of put it out there, my thinking or my feeling or how I'm approaching something, and they will put that out and either ask other people what they think, or they'll just say, hey, look, this is how I'm approaching it, or this is how I'm thinking about it, without trying to just posture. And I think that amount of vulnerability is not just spoken of like, oh, we need to be vulnerable. um, it truly is demonstrated vulnerability, and that it looks like courage a lot of times. And say, hey, look, I'm going to put something out here, and people can either agree or disagree. Just like I think it takes courage to be willing to provide a client feedback and to say, hey, I'm going to put something out there in this, and I'm putting myself in a vulnerable place. But I think that's my role as the coach, is to at least throw it out there, and the client can say, no, I don't really see that, or I may not see that yet, or whatever it happens to be. And yeah, Bob was probably one of the more unique episodes where we felt like he was really we were getting a real picture of Bob in truly all his years of experience. I mean, 20, I think probably almost 30 years of coaching, had done just a tremendous amount of that. I know Sandra had mentioned some of the vulnerability plus safety, I think, plus growth mindset type of thing. And she was, but I think Bob had I would say, a tenderness to him that was very vulnerable.
That's
And
true. And
yeah.
as we talk about, this vulnerability and being comfortable with imperfection, I think it also reminds me of another recurring theme throughout the season, which is the importance of human connection. And I wanted to ask if there are any moments in this season that you think really illustrate this importance.
Well, I'll throw out one because I think it's with Dr. Boyatsis. I think probably 30 minutes into the episode, he goes, I thought this was called Leadership, the Secret Sauce. When are you going to ask me a question about my sauce? And I just thought that was just it was such a off the cuff, like, hey, isn't this what this is about? And how come you haven't said anything? So I think that was one of them. And yeah, I think that's probably the most surprising. I think we had someone that I grew up with, Jeff Klubeck, on as well. That felt vulnerable to me because it felt like a bunch of things that came up for me, like as I'm thinking about our experiences, that I've known Jeff for a long time, and just good to hear how he approaches things as a coach and as a author, and how he thinks about systems. But I think also, maybe wasn't necessarily one of our episodes, but this was one of our CIO After Dark episodes that we recorded, and it was with Preeti Demilo. And I just was not expecting her to be as heartwarming as she is. And the more you got to know her, the more you went, wow, this is a really unique person who's had very unique experiences inside of like Tata Industries, and just very personal. And that I found very heartwarming, as well as Michelle Chambers in that same group. But just really, like, you could spend a lot of time with these people. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, human connection. What comes to mind is the creating the space and paying attention to language from Bethany Peters. And that in terms of like remembering as a coach that what you're doing is you're creating a space for people to be safe and create that connection and be able to move forward. And it's kind of a nice way to look at safety,
Yeah.
like how you create safety so that people can choose to be vulnerable and safe and share.
I guess we can move on to my next question. We talk about this one a lot in our episodes, but I wanted to ask you guys about this. Many guests spoke about adapting to new contexts such as AI or new cultures or innovation. And I wanted to ask you guys personally what you think how leaders and coaches should approach that.
All right, Dave, I'll let you start. Yeah, yeah, right. It's just,
Thank you, Matt. Is this really Matt or is this the AI version? You're so polite. Your bot is so polite. Um, yeah. So, it's funny. Before the episode, I was having a conversation with my son, Jacob, about um, what's the real like. I get this question all the time from people, like, what's the differentiator? Like, what makes me human, right? And I share with Jacob like the idea of the heat of the conversation from Hudson, that, and I think, the more like I talk to people about this is the importance of bringing your unique self to building a relationship with a client, right? And I think that's where like all these other things that we talk about is AI can't be vulnerable, right? AI can't really like you can't relate to AI in a way that it went through the same experience and challenges and embarrassment and humiliation and having to pick yourself up. And I think the emphasis of people being able to identify like that human brand in themselves and the vulnerability is are some of the keys that were reinforced in our conversations this year.
Yeah. You know what? So I don't want to. We have an episode that we've recorded in season 5, where one of our guests, Mickey, talked about AI and his thoughts on it, and I think that is probably one of the biggest sort of like. I just went. You know what we do in coaching when we are with and building a relationship with another human being, that whether that's presence, that's what he would describe it as, or that kind of the value that we bring to the conversation, our own sense of purpose, and it's not a call and response. It's a human to human, and I think that will always. He said something that I relate to. and I'm sure I'll bring this up in the last review, in season 5 review, whenever that is that sort of uniqueness is in so desperate need that the people and the leaders that are really good at it, that is the value that you're bringing to coaching. So get really good at that human to human relationship. That's I think that's what differentiates us as human coaches versus AI coaches, is that ability to relate to other people. So I walked away going, okay, I have my own personal mandate of really get good at relating to people and asking them the questions that they need to be asked, and trusting this intuition that I have about people to be willing to say, hey, how do I, what's the next right question, or how do I know or ask the questions about the unknown, so that client can unlock the value from that coaching conversation.
Yeah, Matt, that's so good. I want to build on that because you reminded me of something with that conversation with Mickey as well as other ones. There's something about like our timing and with clients, and when to switch it up, and when to ask a different kind of question, and when to know when that client is making progress or not. That comes from like that deeper listening. Maybe some of it's intuition, but some of it also is like experience and coaching, and when to like even when to insert humor, right? When to insert things. And there's something that AI cannot do that humans can do. And I think that's part of that, like our unique presence, our unique ability as a coach.
Yeah, definitely true. It reminds me of Dr. Richard's statement that AI cannot replace, the relational aspect of coaching, and that human connection activates, this emotional and neurological process that I think AI cannot replicate.
Of course, that's his secret sauce too, the relational connection. So, that's what makes it even better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, JP, because he did. I remember like there was something that he said about measuring people's brains,
Yeah.
right? And it was different in human interaction. And so, like, I hope I'm getting it right, but it's like we need more evidence like that because you don't hear a lot about it. You don't hear about the like that level of data that reinforces the importance of human to human connection.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
All right. So I guess my next question is several guests talked about developing leaders and coaching skills. So I think Bethany framed it beautifully when she said, developing a coaching mindset is a tool for emotional intelligence and independent thinking. And I wanted to ask if there are any patterns among our guests that you guys have observed. Are there any similar patterns from different guests?
Well, some of our guests, I think, if I just sort of look at the names, each of them have one of the things in their toolbox is to teach coaching skills. So as I'm looking at so Sandra has that, and Bethany, Lissa, Ben. I think Shelley may have that as well, and Renee. And then some of our CIO guests will do it inside of organizations, whether that's Whipfly or some of the other healthcare organizations. So I do think that is, it's almost like that's part and parcel to being a coach, is have this ability to teach coaching skills. So there may be other people that maybe, I think in the previous seasons we had like, the Think Like a Coach, which is, a book that we recommend, shameless plug on that if you're interested. But I think that's something that each person has said, hey, look, this is a skill that we do need to teach, because the more command and control is not really it's not doing it in a business context to really get what people want. It's, telling them what to do is going to be a short-term gain versus a longer term, asking them questions and help them discover it for themselves. How about you, Dave? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, as you rattled off the names of our the guests, there is a pattern of people knowing the landscape of leading people, right? There's definitely coaching, but there's also like a difference in people that understand leadership, right? And some of them who are leadership teachers and authors of books, and I often like I get this question, which is, do you have had like would you have had to lead to coach leaders, right? What's your experience in leading? And it's a like you're never going to have the same experience as others, but the struggle of attempting to lead it increases credibility and I think vulnerability because it's hard. It's really hard, right? So I think that of like the experience of not succeeding in leading is a really important uh, important for us as individuals. And then the other part is the understanding the landscape of leadership, right? And you don't have to teach necessarily, but you need to understand what a good team leader does to be able to have a valuable conversation with an individual who's trying to be a better team leader.
This season as well, we did change a few of our questions, and one of them was, asking our guest a bold belief about leadership. And I wanted to ask if there is, something like a guest have shared that, challenged you, a bold belief about leadership.
I'm going to let you go first, Dave, because nothing jumps other than what we've talked about so far, the emotional intelligence piece. I think Richard Boyatzis was probably, here I am answering the question after I told you should go first, Dave. But I think his is probably the idea, like he had in a very unconventional idea, like, hey, we shouldn't really talk about goals in the coaching conversation. That should be something that we speak about much later. And that shifted a lot of my thinking when I'm at a client site and we're talking about whatever it happens to be. I would rather have them describe what the vision of the future looks like first and see if I can like squeeze as much of that as possible before I get to what's the goal for 2026. Because at the beginning of the year, I will typically ask a client like, hey, oh, what are your goals for this year? So I've stopped asking that question and I've said, hey, it's December of 2026. What does it look like? What have you done? What does it feel like? Any of those types of things to try to get them to think about the vision of the future rather than, hey, what's your goal? And let's just tick off that box to see how many goals you can accomplish. Because according to Richard, like he was like, hey, look, this really, it focuses your thinking and narrows your thinking. So you eliminate a lot of possibilities. So.
Yeah, it's Bob Kunkel had said, deep personal work isn't optional. And I remember, for a coach, I think that's absolutely true. I wonder if, that should be a measure of how we develop leaders. Because I think I've had leaders that haven't done the work, and it's I think it's a risk. It's a risk factor as you continue to like promote people that haven't done the work on themselves. And I think in organizations that Matt and I have been a part of and served, that hasn't always been a commitment, or sometimes even on the radar. But that belief that you need to do the personal work as a leader, I think, is something that we can continue to explore in 26.
Yeah, and maybe even helping people understand, well, what does that mean? And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean therapy, or counseling, but it just means to take a look inside and see, sort of motives, values, beliefs that you have and how they show up in your leading of people, so that you'll know. Because I think it's been a theme this year, is this idea around self-awareness, but really getting to the place of not just like, I I don't know many leaders that would say, "Oh, I'm not self-aware." I don't know anybody actually that would say, "Oh, I'm not self-aware." So we're starting from a place that we all maybe have some self-awareness, but it's possible we may be um, blind to our own blindness. And so with that, and I think there are plenty of people like in this season that you're like, wow, you've really thought about some of those things. And we had them in the previous seasons, but I think for some reason the theme really came through this year. Like, hey, look, I have done um, some
All right.
thought work or heart work on how I show up. So,
And before I ask my final question, I wanted to raise this one. If you guys could steal one secret sauce from a guest this season and apply it to your own leadership, what do you think it will be?
Yeah, good. Because I'm stealing the sauce or stealing the whole persona. Like I would like to embody Richard Boyatzis, right? It's like, because I've always admired him so much, and the purposeful, the being able to hold what would make your life better in like 10 to 15 years, long enough to make progress in it, because I'm not that patient.
mm. um, hmm. Okay, so I'll say this, and I admired Sandy Stewart's ability to put change and coaching together, and she seems to have a grasp on that I wish I could have as a I feel like, okay, I love both of those. I like and love and I'm passionate about both of those topics, but I wouldn't necessarily want to be a change management professional. I prefer, but I want to take all of my experience as a change management consultant and integrate that as part of the coaching. And that's what I really noticed about her. That I probably, if I was going to choose someone else besides Richard Boyatzis, because I really think, like, to me, he was a really like old school, and I think Bob, from a tenderness perspective, he was probably the one coach that we had this year that his love of people came across so strikingly, um, and that to me was uh, really striking.
Yeah, and to add your high school friend, in terms of his ability to package, right, to brand himself, like that was I was impressed with that.
Oh, I think that. All right. So I guess my final question is this, since we are off to a new year, a new start, I wanted to ask, looking back at the season, what inspires you the most about the future of coaching and leadership?
Well, this is what I would say. I would say um, the guests that we are having, I think um, I think they're really they're all very unique, and they all each have a unique story, and I think that's what we have discovered by, like 50 plus episodes, that we're trying to get to the essence of their unique story. And so if there is anything like the leader just wants to hear is, I do believe that if they really want to get to know their team, so I'm just going to spread this across not just coaching, but leaders, is that each of those, say you have a leadership team at work, each of those people have a story. And it's your responsibility as the sort of the coach or the supervisor is to really understand that story of that other person. And that there is something that gets unlocked by really getting to know that person. And I think of the person like Bethany Peters, when she described the two supervisors that she had that really unlocked coaching for her, where they asked some really great questions and they thought of her long-term development. And that was what was unique. And that's what really, sort of flicked on the switch for her. So anyway, that was probably, I don't know if I really even answered the question, JP, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you answered the question, and I'll build on that. So it'll either build on the answering the question, or I'll continue down that path. What excites me most is we're in the right conversation. Like I'm so thankful that for you, JP, and Matt, and all the folks that helped create this, because when I look back at the body of our conversations and I think about what you were saying, Matt, of like everybody has a unique story, and that we're in the right conversation about coaches developing that unique story and being able to share it in authentic ways and being able to do the work so that they can show up for their clients in really positive ways. So what excites me most about the future with our conversations is that I think we're in the right place, at the right time to help humans share their stories about coaching.
Definitely agree with that. I believe that the podcast, allows, at least to me, it allows me to see other people. And I'm very thankful that this podcast exists because, in the times right now, I really believe that we have to see each other. And, it's very important to be seen as well. And I guess, as this comes to a circle, I also think about the time when we were thinking of titles, because many of the coaches we had would say that they have multiple sauces, and it was kind of hard to have just say multiple sauces for the titles. But I guess what that reminded me is that maybe a secret sauce isn't a single tool or a method, but how a leader shows up for a client or people and building the trust along the way. So again, as we wrap up the season, I want to say a huge thank you to you, Matt and Dave, and for doing this podcast, for bringing amazing voices and leaders and ideas and stories. It's really inspiring. And I also want to thank our guests this season for sharing their experiences and insights and their secret sauces, as well as to our listeners for joining us and reflecting with us. And I hope that as they listen, they can, carry these ideas into their own lives to be their own leadership.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Big thanks to our sponsor, Character Matters Coaching and Consulting. If you're ready to unlock your leadership potential and make the impact you're meant to make, visit charactermatterscoaching.com and connect with Matt about transforming your team or organization. If this conversation sparks something for you, share it with a fellow leader who needs to hear it. And don't forget, all of today's resources are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, keep discovering your secret sauce.